Meryam, thank you so much for joining us here at FundForum International. Interesting conversations about investing in greener products. Do you think this is really something that is taking off now and is being embraced properly?
I believe so. I think it's important to not say green because this is basically an energy transition that's happening, and what people are starting to recognize is that we don't need as much fossil fuel as we used to in the future. And also there are fantastic opportunity happening in the low carbon space. And so investors are coming to us and saying, I want to take advantage of that transition, and I also don't want to be exposed to the potential risks of fossil fuel. And so what we've done is we've created a fund called Future Fund, where you can actually decarbonize the portfolio by having a lot less exposure to carbon emissions and carbon reserves, and also tilt into the companies that are actually transitioning into the low carbon space. So what we can do with a fund is offer almost the same risk return profile, but actually taking advantage of this low carbon transition. And over and above that, what we've done is come up with an engagement overlay, where we as asset managers invest on their behalf with companies who are actually transitioning, the likes of banks, insurance companies, and auto companies, and see how they're articulating their risks and opportunities, engage with them over time, improve their performance and disclosure, and if they don't, we actually can divest out of those stocks, even though it's an index fund. So what we're doing is we're kind of ratcheting up in terms of the engagement and saying to the companies, this is the direction of travel that we're going, and if you're not part of that transition, perhaps you shouldn't be part of that portfolio.
And is it something that you're seeing increasing in popularity amongst investors? Is that a generational thing, or is it a true commitment to more ESG policies?
I think it's kind of both. There is a lot of generation in terms of the younger generation that resonate with this topic. Doesn't mean that the older generations are not resonating, but I think because they have a longer investment time frame, when you kind of take up your pension at the age of 25, you're going to sit on it for 30 to 40 years. You not only can afford to look at that long-term time frame, but you actually have to. And so when I say that low carbon transition is happening, everybody agrees with that in that time frame, and it makes sense to position your portfolio that way. So we're having probably an easier conversation with that kind of age group about the time frame and the low carbon opportunities. But I also would say that generally the ESG, the environmental social governance conversations are happening across the investment spectrum. And a lot of investors are saying to us, what can I do and what is my responsibility? And we are coming up with investment solutions that meet those needs.
Why do you think the engagement with that has properly taken off now? Because it was probably seen as slightly lip service, say 5 years ago even.
Yeah, partly because it's misunderstood in terms of what ESG is. It tended to be a lot of ethical funds that divest out of stocks or sectors and so forth, which meant that the risk return profile looked very different. So it was seen that it was a riskier investment proposition. What we're saying now is that ESG is just about risk and opportunities that exist in our normal investment spectrum. And so it is part of our responsibility to look at those risks and take advantage of the opportunities and come up with a proposition that matches any other investments. So in line with the fact that this is kind of fiduciary responsibility to look at those things, they're saying that actually I want to look at it and what do I have to do with my investment portfolio. So I think the terminology and understanding and some of the past performance of the ESG tilted funds have proven to be as good, if not better, means that they're more comforted to go into that space.
So given the interest in that space now, where do you see the greatest opportunities lying, say, in the next decade?
I think some of the greatest opportunities kind of lie in ESG data, so to speak. What's happening is that companies are disclosing a lot more of their performance in relation to environmental and social governance. And also what companies are doing are captured by data and so forth, social media and things like that. What that means is as investors we can collect a lot more what companies are doing or what they're not doing, and using that data can create investment portfolios that are much more suited to picking up the better ESG companies.
So data is bringing about more transparency basically?
Yeah, absolutely. And secondly, what's happening is that we can start to position portfolios that are much more aligned to the macroeconomic themes. So the climate change and energy transition being one of them, demographics, diversity and so forth. So the more that we can align our investment portfolios to those, so ESG but effectively a macroeconomic themes, would mean that we can actually have a greater and a much more elevated conversation with our clients about our investments.
There's been a lot of conversation this week as well about an increase in investment in the real economy, if you like, infrastructure, etc. And that's probably something that's along similar lines. People want to invest in something they can touch and see and is a solid sort of historical thing that's going to stay there for a good amount of time.
Absolutely. So what we're doing is we're kind of making a building block, if you like, whether it be listed equities or fixed income or real assets and so forth. We actually sort of saying that you are invested in real economy, you have impacts as an investor. And the more we can articulate those stories, the more the investors kind of associate the investments with the lives that they have. And so real assets is sort of a perfect example of that, but we don't think we should stop there because everything is invested in real economy and we need to communicate that much better.
What could be more real than the world we live in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been great to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.